This final video brings all the tips discussed during the What to Include in Every Lesson series together and sets out an example of what these might look like in a single lesson. I am using maths as the example subject, but the principles can be applied to many others across the curriculum. The principles behind the start of these lessons link to Rosenshine's principles about regular practice and reviews. Students who are given short daily quizzes on past knowledge will find it much easier to access their long-term memory and to also make as many learned skills automatic as possible. So this lesson plan begins with a short warm-up which reviews past knowledge. It could be a fast 5 or fast 10 questions with mixed operations. For younger students, it could be a set time where you practice fundamental skills such as counting forwards and backwards, or reviewing the cardinal values of certain numbers. It should only be a couple of minutes long, and answers should be given by the teacher, and students should just self-mark it. The teacher should then quickly check the scores by a raise of hands. This gives the teacher immediate feedback on which questions students got wrong the most. This is then followed by a specific review of the previous lesson's learning. So whereas the short warm-up above is more of a general past knowledge review, this second part links to the previous lesson specifically and so should be more detailed. The teacher should remodel the main learning concept, then follow it up with several questions which could be written on the board or be in a sheet depending on your circumstances, and it could be like a mini quiz. Again, quickly self-mark this and take in scores like above. This is immediate feedback on the current attainment of the class and gives the teacher the ability to make the decision whether additional practice on the previous lesson is needed or whether the next lesson's learning steps are ready to be taught. The I, we, you teaching sequence can then be started for the next learning step. So the I refers to the teacher modelling and explaining concepts first. Wherever possible, write steps to success on the board and try to do modelling first physically and then explain it using precise mathematical language. For the we part, this is where student interaction is required, but with teacher direction. So students should be questioned to assess their understanding so far. More examples could be done with students verbally or physically supporting you. You could have students complete an example in pairs or in groups, but it's important that you use this time to assess their understanding constantly through whiteboard activities, questions, or verbal or hand responses. The you part is where students complete a question or questions on their own in a guided way. So you could set 1 or 2 questions first, then check on a student attainment so far. If you've got an 80 to 85% success rate, you can move on to the next teaching step and complete another I, we, you cycle, or if there's nothing else to teach, have students begin an additional independent practice session. Support those who require additional support, so those in the 15% who didn't get it, in a small group, and then give deepening questions to those who complete work and all their answers are correct. The plenary is a short review of the learning. Give answers if they haven't been put on the board for instant feedback, and ask for a show of hands for how many got each question correct. Then you can remodel and have students model to the class if required. You can then discuss the learning tasks in more detail, look at any deepening tasks as well, and again, either model this or have a student model it if they completed it. And if you give homework, if that's part of your policy, you can give that then as well. So lastly, there are some additional tips for including weekly and monthly reviews. At the start of a new week, conduct a quiz that tests the key skills from the previous week. Make notes of what questions students are struggling with. Reteach these skills during a whole class review session at the end of the unit. And after the review session, conduct a longer quiz that tests that unit. So as explained at the start of the video, this is just one idea of a general planning format that uses the Rosenshine principles. It doesn't require extensive resources and so can be used in most educational settings. I used maths as an example to give context, but the format can be used in many other subjects. I hope this series has been useful. Thank you.